Hi guys, thought I'd show you a little bit about my off-road kit for the Ford Motorcraft carburetor. The kit typically includes this custom cut gasket and then this pair of vent plugs. One is a total plug, one is a restrictor. There is a slight extension to those in length, but that doesn't really do anything in this case. They are installed on the carburetor top hat. Um, this would be looking at the carburetor from the bumper in most applications with the fuel bowl in the front. The reduction plug gets put in the left-hand side, passenger side, and then the total plug gets put in the right-hand side or driver's side. Um, this works in combination with my gasket to turn the fuel bowl here into basically a four-way baffle box. So the problem with the carburetor in general is when the raw fuel from the fuel bowl can get into the primaries and then into the engine. That causes a flooding situation and when going uphill, and causes the vehicle typically to stall out from being too rich. Um, Going on some carburetors, like a Holley, going downhill, which would be pointed very, very far down, the fuel can run forward away from the jets that are typically in the front, in the wall of the metering block on a Holley. On a Motorcraft carburetor, however, the jets, we can take a look at that real quick here. On a Motorcraft carburetor, and I think one of the things that makes them much better is the jets are right in the bottom. And you can see those here. So this one has a Holley main jet conversion. This is an aftermarket reproduction. These are actually quite good, but one of the things they did get a little bit weird with was the main jets on these have their own threading. It's a very odd thread that doesn't have anything to do with the Holley or typical Motorcraft style jets. And so you end up, if you want to change the main jets, that is the one problem. They typically come stock with a something like a 47 to 48 jet, which for most people is probably okay. But this one, as I mentioned, has a Holley jet conversion. That's something that I do. Those jets are 10 times easier to find even in the Motorcraft jets and much cheaper. So as you can see, the jets are in the bottom in a Motorcraft. And so basically they're at the lowest point, and it's very hard to wash them out. As far as washing out causes a lean condition, and that would typically be on a Holley. When you're nose down, the fuel goes away from the jets. On the Motorcraft, those jets stay submerged. So the problem with a Motorcraft, and all carburetors in general, is that the fuel can get from the bowl out the vents to the primaries. And it basically just, if this was on here, you can see these are typically connected here to the jet. You get it on a steep enough angle, the float doesn't turn off, and the fuel will actually come out of the vent and splash into the carb, causing a rich stumble or flooding. What my conversion kit does is replace the factory top gasket with this special gasket. It's just hand cut out of Felpro material similar to the stock gasket. It directly replaces the stock gasket, but it eliminates a lot of the extra holes that are typically in the top here that allow fuel to get between the bowl and the vents. My gasket only has this one hole in the forward corner, And so what that basically means is by pushing it far forward and offset this way as much as possible, when the carburetor is going uphill like this, the fuel has to go all the way forward in the bowl, come out of the hole, and then run, in this case, all the way across the top hat and then out this vent. How that generally works is the float's job is to turn off the fuel. So if the fuel bowl is full enough that the float can shut off the fuel supply, then the carburetor doesn't continue to pump fuel out of the vents into the primaries. In the stock configuration, basically, it's the shortest path to the vent and to the primary, and the carburetor will just continue to pump fuel, and it just overfills the bowl, causing the flooding. With my gasket in place, because the fuel cannot go through the shortest path along the back of the bowl, it has to go forward. This allows the fuel level to rise, the float to work, and shut off. Now, a similar system works when you are at an angle to one side, be it the driver's side or the passenger's side. In this case, if the carburetor is to the driver's side, the fuel, because so the hole is on the downhill side. But remember, we plugged this side of the top hat. So now the fuel has to travel up the level all the way to the other side and then out the vent. And so basically, again, what that does is it lets the fuel bowl shut itself, lets the float shut the fuel bowl off and maintains a level in there. The same thing is generally true when the carburetor is leaned far to the passenger side. The fuel has to go all the way up to the top, which the hole is now at the high spot, and then go back down to get out the vent. Again, this allows the fuel in the bowl to be full, the float to do its job shutting it off, and it maintains its level. So with those features, this basically lets the carburetor work in any position by helping to maintain overfilling of the fuel bowl. This is the best way that I have found to manage this in a carburetor. The Motorcraft just makes this very easy. This is just a gasket. Like I said, there's the plugs, and then the plugs just get epoxied into these openings, and that's all there is to it. The only thing you have to really check for is if you have a very, very high fuel level in the bowl, the float, when it is in full position, will sometimes hit the gasket. In some of the gaskets, there's actually a hole for the float to prevent that. But in, I would say, most off-road applications, we don't want the fuel level in the bowl to be that high. I typically run the wet fuel level in the bowl about 3/4 of an inch, or the width of a quarter, the coin in your pocket, from the wet to this ridge when the carburetor is installed. And that's a good level to keep the accelerator pump. I don't know if you can see that in there with the lighting, but basically to keep the accelerator pump full and to prevent lean surge. So if the level's too low, basically the carburetor will cycle through that fuel too quickly before it can be replenished, and then the carburetor will surge. And now I can't get rid of this. That's annoying. Anyways. So that's how my off-road kit for Motorcraft carburetors works. You can purchase them on my website at brennan's-garage.com. They run currently about $25. They come with very nice CNC machined plugs now, and then the gaskets are still being hand cut. There are 4 different styles, approximately, of gaskets for Motorcraft carburetors. Make sure that you select the proper one. There is a picture on the website with 4 choices, and it's a 1 through 4. This one you can see is a number 3, and that lets me get a close fit for the gasket for your carburetor. Thanks.